It is Throwback Thursday, and in today's video, I'm going to share with you a video I made 9 years ago. This was one of the first videos I had ever made on YouTube. Hope it's helpful to you. Let's go check it out. Today on Little Miss Domestic, I'm going to be teaching you how to make Bistec Empanizado, also known as Cuban-style breaded steak. Alright, let's get started. Start off by buying some milanesa type steak, and this is a very thin cut, and it usually says milanesa. And you're going to go ahead and marinate this in half a teaspoon of salt, a quarter teaspoon of pepper, half a teaspoon of cumin, about 1/8 teaspoon of oregano, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, and about a quarter to 1/2 cup of lemon juice, depending on how many steaks you have. For best results, try to marinate your meat overnight, but if you don't have enough time, marinate for 3 hours or so. That would be suffice. For the best flavor, I definitely recommend using Cuban crackers as your breadcrumb, but unfortunately I don't have Cuban crackers, so I'm going to go ahead and use some saltines. Now, I'm using a blade that is usually used to break down nuts and just something that is really strong and will make whatever it is that you're blending or breaking down very, very fine. I'm going to go ahead and use it on my magic bullet, but you can use any kind of food processor or blender if you don't have a magic bullet or anything like that. You can literally put them in a plastic bag and just crush them, with a mallet, whatever it is that you need. But the point is to get it very, very fine, and you want to produce literally like a powder. That's how fine you want your breadcrumb to be. Now take a gallon freezer bag and dump all the breadcrumb in there. And here we go. I'm just want to show you how fine this is. It is literally like a powder that came out perfect. Now let's take 2 large eggs and crack them into a bowl. Make sure the bowl is big enough to hold a steak. This is a thin steak, but still you need some space. You don't need it to be a tiny cereal bowl. And we're going to go ahead and just beat those eggs. Make sure that they're really well combined, and go ahead and set that aside. Now take your milanesa steak, go ahead and put it in the eggs and just start egg washing that. Make sure that you get every little inch of that steak covered in egg wash. Next, take it and put it in your bag of breadcrumb. And we want to cover this really, really well. You want to make sure that all the areas are covered very well. So at this point, you just want to toss it around, and you want to kind of spread it out. You want to make sure that it's getting covered really, really well with the breadcrumb. And you'll probably want to pound it a bit. There you go. You pound it so it sticks on there really well. And the whole point is just cover it really good, because if you don't have it covered, then it's not going to fry it really good, and you want that nice crispiness on the outside. So everywhere that you have the steak covered, it's going to be nice and crispy. Now go ahead and pull out your milanesa out of the bag, set it aside, and go ahead and repeat this process for all your remaining steaks. At this point, go ahead and set your stove at a good medium to high heat. Now let's take some frying oil. I am using canola. Okay, this is definitely an old video. I would not be using canola oil nowadays. I would be using something more like avocado oil or an olive oil. That's usually what I use for frying. And I'm going to use a generous amount here. I am filling my pan halfway with oil here. I do not want to be lacking in oil later and having to add oil when it's cold. That just doesn't work. So I'm going to use a generous amount of oil from the beginning. Now I went ahead and added my steak, and make sure not to add your steak to that oil until you know that it is nice and hot. If it is not quite at temperature, the steak it's not going to work out good, and what's going to happen is your steak is just going to get really greasy, and you don't want it to be greasy. You want it to be crispy. So make sure that your oil is hot enough before you put the steak in. Now, with that being said, make sure to watch your steak really well because you don't want it to burn just because you have your oil, crazy hot. So you probably want to drop it a little bit. Once you flip that steak about once or twice, go ahead and drop the heat. And I would take it down maybe 1 or 2 notches just to kind of supervise it. Now, if I had it my way, I wouldn't call this steak milanesa. I would call it the magical shrinking steak because as you can see here, this steak starts to shrink like half its size. I mean, we've literally lost half its size. So don't be fooled by these steaks. You buy them at the store and they're huge and you're thinking, wow, this is a lot of meat. It's really not. It's going to be about half of that. So keep that in mind. Alright, this steak looks good. I'm going to go ahead and drain it and plate it. And go ahead and repeat the process with the rest of them. And here we have it. Nice and crispy, just perfect in color. It is not greasy at all. This is just the perfect bistec empanizado. Guys, I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please feel free to give me a thumbs up. Even subscribe if you like. I have a lot of really easy recipes I want to share with you guys, so stay tuned. Bye-bye for now. So there you have it, guys. That was my recipe for breaded steak. I hope you got a lot of good information out of this video, and I hope that it was helpful to you. If you like what you see here, please be sure to like, subscribe, and maybe even comment. Thanks for watching, and see you at the next video. Bye-bye.